Hi, I'm Rod Green and I teach anatomy at the Bendigo campus. This video segment is going to introduce you to the vertebral column. It'll consist of 4 video clips. The first is a general introduction. The second will explain typical features of a vertebra. The third will explain the relationship to the nervous system, and the fourth will cover joints and movements of the vertebral column. Vertebrates are a subphylum of the animal kingdom. They include fish, reptiles, birds and mammals, including man. And the common feature of all vertebrates is they have this segmented vertebral column that reaches all the way from the neck right down to the tail.
The vertebral column, like the rest of the skeleton, is composed of bone tissue, and being the only hard tissue in the body, it forms the framework that the rest of the soft tissues are attached to. In particular, the vertebral column is part of the axial skeleton, and that means it has the additional function of being the major part of that framework that all of the appendicular skeleton attaches to. In man, because we have an upright posture where our weight is supported on the lower limbs, the vertebral column serves an additional important function in that all of the weight of the upper body is transmitted down through the vertebral column and so on to the pelvis and lower limbs. The vertebral column also protects the spinal cord. The spinal cord is contained within the vertebral canal, and we'll see this on one of the later video segments, and so by being enclosed by the vertebral column it's protected. There are a number of bony protuberances on the individual vertebrae, and we know that bony protuberances are attachment sites for muscles and ligaments, and so in particular the vertebral column provides muscle attachment for muscles acting on the vertebral column itself, as well as muscles attaching on the head and the limbs. Again, because it's composed of bone tissue, the vertebral column, like all other bones, will also have the general bone functions. For example, it allows for blood cell formation and calcium storage.
As I indicated previously, all vertebrates have individual segmented vertebrae. The vertebra you can see in front of you is actually not a human vertebra. It comes from a cow, but it has all of the typical features that a human vertebra would have. I'm going to ask you to pause the video in a moment, but before I do that I'll give you some instructions. I want you to use anatomical terminology to tell me which are the anterior and posterior surfaces of this vertebra.
Pause now.
Hopefully you are able to identify the body of the vertebra as being anterior and the spinous process of the vertebra as being posterior. On the lateral aspects we have the 2 transverse processes. This is starting now to introduce you to the idea that the features of a vertebra will all have names, and we'll tell you more about that on the next video segment.